Buffalo Bills get the win over the Indianapolis Colts. It's 30-20 for the Bills. They move to 8-2. Colts fall to 4-6. We'll be talking a lot this week about Bills Chiefs next week. Battle at 4:25. The NFL is doing a good job hyping that up. The Bills get there with an 8-2 record. Second straight week where Joe Flacco's offense not looking great for the Colts, and the Bills take care of business here.
Yeah, I mean, Joe Flacco dug them a massive hole to start the game. Like, the first pick six was just utterly inexplicable. And then at a second, like another interception, like a minute later on a screen, right? Just a couple of ridiculous mistakes that.
The Austin Johnson, that interception by defensive tackle Austin Johnson, though, that was just an incredible play by him, too.
Yes.
Flacco's kind of got to see him, but Austin Johnson, like, reads it and is just like, boom, one-handed catch. It was awesome.
But, like, the first interception is just.
It was awful.
I don't know what he was doing.
Colts were up, though. I mean, they battled back. They were up 13-10 at one point, and then that was Bills took control after that.
Yeah. But it's like, oh, you can't make that volume of mistakes against a team that's probably better than you to begin with. I mean, that's why Joe Flacco's out there in the first place, because you think Richardson's going to make more mistakes like that. If Flacco's going to do it, yeah, he's capable of then having some volume and trying to offset it and dragging them back, but those are killer mistakes against a good team.
Josh Allen made mistakes of his own. He had 2 bad interceptions in this game, so some of the interception luck has reverted back for Josh Allen. E.J. Speed got him once, and Kenny Moore on another one. If Kenny Moore kept his feet, he might have a pick six opportunity. Just something. Allen probably can't make those throws next week against the Chiefs. But he also made the special throws too. Hit a bomb to Dawson Knox and then finished that with the rushing touchdown. And Josh Allen is now second all-time in Bills rushing touchdowns.
Only Bills player with more rushing touchdowns career than Josh Allen is Thurman Thomas, which means he's now tied with O.J. Simpson, who was there a long time in Buffalo.
Tied with O.J.
Some insane production.
One of the best running backs of all time.
Yeah.
Josh Allen's tied with him in rushing touchdowns 7 years into his career.
And is only, whatever it was, 8 or something behind Thurman Thomas, who's one of the best running backs of all time.
Yeah, so pretty incredible. I mean, I think we've been on this kick of, crazy stats and everything. And I think the next few years we're going to be getting some wild ones, especially as Lamar Jackson. He's going to break every QB rushing record off the bat. But it wasn't that big of a part of the game until a little bit of Michael Vick, Cam Newton. We're going to see a lot of these QB rushing type records, whether it's touchdowns, yards, or games with 300-plus passing yards and 50-plus rushing yards. You're going to see a lot of those, and Allen's been a big part of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Cam Newton, I think, was the guy that sort of really created the threat of the rushing touchdown, like actually exposing quarterbacks to those types of hits down by the goal line. Lamar Jackson's just a weapon to run anywhere because of the freakish athleticism. But now, with Josh Allen, with Jalen Hurts, like the number of quarterbacks that are serious weapons to score in short yardage situations, I think is higher than it's ever been.
Overall, I want to talk about Flacco and the Anthony Richardson stuff that we talked about last night. But first, I thought for the Bills, good, well-rounded win for them. So Allen has 2 picks in there, and like I said, many times throughout this season, he's had other days where he's thrown the ball to the defense, and it just hasn't been caught. The Bills overcame those because James Cook ran really well. Allen is still awesome, right? He had 50 yards on the ground, including the touchdown. He hit Mac Hollins on a beautiful 44-yarder just before the half to help set up putting points on the board. Khalil Shakir had a big, long screen to help set up another touchdown, from Cook. A lot of playmakers. They didn't have Keon Coleman in this game.
Or Cooper.
Or Amari Cooper.
Yeah. So down like his top 2 receivers.
Yeah, and they still find a way with Mac Hollins, with yards after the catch from Shakir. I mean, I think the Bill. How many times were we on the show the last few years, and it's like, man, it's all Josh Allen. It's every key third down is him being Superman and him scrambling around making a play. Those plays still exist. They're still in there. But they're sprinkled in amongst a better team effort where there's balance running the ball, there's balance creating after the catch, and then, oh, by the way, when he needs to make a special play and chuck a 44-yarder to Mac Hollins before the half, he can do that. So I'm going to be real interested to see what that balance is next week against the Chiefs and how much they rely on superhuman Allen, because I think he's just they've had to pick their spots this year with Allen, because it's a more well-rounded approach, I think, from the Bills, and I think this game kind of summed that up.
Yeah, it was also a battle of like two of the better slot defenders in the NFL. Teron Johnson with a couple of those big plays for the Bills defense, and then Kenny Moore with his own, big plays for the Colts. You see Kenny Moore basically calling out the team's lack of effort at some point after the game. Had a fairly strong kind of statement about how this was not good enough, and they need to be doing better. Kind of not quite walked it back, but sort of almost tried to apologize or explain away the comments on Twitter afterwards. But he's probably right. I mean, this was a veteran coming out and saying this is not good enough. We need to be better than this collectively. Just a sort of impressive statement to make after the game.
Sorry, who said that?
Kenny Moore.
I got distracted for a minute because someone tagged us in Skip's latest.
Oh, God.
We got tagged in Skip's latest.
I no.
We'll talk about it later. A couple hours from now, we'll be talking Cowboys. So Colts fall to 4-6. We talked about it a little bit last night. I did want to touch on it. Look, Flacco came back, made some plays, put up a couple touchdowns and 272 yards, but 3 picks. And again, the hardcore football analysts that we are, even last year we said, hey, Joe Flacco, who's made this Browns offense look better, still getting away with a whole bunch of passes, and he had a bunch of games with 3 touchdowns and 300 yards, but he wasn't exactly taking great care of the football. It's come back to bite much more these last couple weeks against the Vikings and the Bills. And so Shane Steichen says, until I say otherwise, Joe Flacco's the quarterback. I think that quote sounds worse than what it's intended to be. I think it's just like, hey, it's Sunday after the game. I'm not going to make a QB change just because you asked me in the post-game press conference. But are they going to go back to Anthony Richardson, and should they?
I mean, they might. I don't know if they should. To me, at this point, it's more important this season to establish a plan for Anthony Richardson than it is to have him try and save you a game where he's maybe marginally better at winning it than Joe Flacco is. You're either – obviously, Anthony Richardson to date has been a relative disappointment compared with what you expected him to be, given where you drafted him and the speed with which you put him into the starting lineup. So with that in mind, you are either at this point, once you sat him down, determining he's a bust, we whiffed in the draft, we now need a quarterback of the future. Or you are saying our plan was bad and we need to fix or come up with a new plan to develop a guy who is wildly undeveloped to be a starting NFL quarterback right now. If that's where you are, the latter part of that, then you need to come up with a plan. What if you're the Colts owner, if you're Jim Irsay, you sit him down and say, well, okay, this was a mess. What is our plan to fix this guy? Whatever that is, stick to it. And I very much doubt that is, we play Flacco for a couple of games, we decide that's not good enough, and we go back to Anthony next week.
2 things I think you're missing there. The part I mentioned last night was, I think the 2 things that are at play, though, he wasn't just benched based off performance. The 44% completion percentage and all that stuff, it was the asking out of the game, right? We theorized that if every former player that is an analyst now is like, that's unacceptable. No one else can ask out of the game. Everyone else can, but the quarterback can't, right? That's basically what people were saying. So I assume the locker room was in agreement. So I wonder how much this was a locker room move. And then secondly, the information at the time was Joe Flacco had been elevating this Colts offense. And last year he was elevating the Browns offense. And he elevated a Jets offense. He had a little track record as a backup who comes in and spot starts and gives you a bit of a spark. The new information is that's not the case anymore. Flacco is not playing great anymore. And does 2 weeks of Flacco not playing say, okay, it's back to Richardson, because in the last 2 weeks he's earned our trust back behind closed doors, because that was probably a part of the benching. It wasn't pure performance like it was for Bryce Young. With Bryce Young, it was pure performance. With Richardson, it was like, you tapped your helmet on 3rd and long. You're done.
The Flacco thing, I think, should be irrelevant. Flacco's kind of a pointless. He's not part of your long-term development arc here. He's just the guy that happens to be there as the backup when you need to turn to him. Like, his actual performance as the starting quarterback of this team should be fairly besides the point relative to Anthony Richardson's long-term development. Like, Flacco is viable as a starting quarterback if you think that's necessary because Richardson needs time to develop. The fact that he's been viable but on the wrong side of winning these games the last couple of weeks is sort of irrelevant. I do think, it is, if it was largely because he tapped out of a game and this was a sort of punishment benching, then okay, fair enough. But again, the important thing for them is still what turns him into a viable starting quarterback for the future. Not,
I agree.
Are we going to win one or two more games with him this year?
I agree, but they also partially made this Flacco decision. It was a little tap out and a little, hey, we're 4-4. Let's make a move. Now they're 4-6.
Yeah.
So they're at the Jets. The Colts are at the Jets next week, and then they have the Lions just before Thanksgiving. So pivotal couple games here.
We are also, this was the closest we've come to a breakout Adonai Mitchell game. His PFF grade won't be great because he fumbled the ball. I think it was Christian Benford punched it out. Benford, Douglas, one of them. But he just looks so dynamic when he gets the ball. Like, he's one of those guys where he moves differently from other receivers. Like, every time you see him, you're like, dude, can we not find a way of getting him the football more? Like, I understand there appears to be some issues with him maybe not running the right routes or being on the same page as quarterback sometimes, but, like, he's so athletically talented. We need to find a way of tapping into that better.
I think Reggie Wayne, his wide receiver coach, came out this week and said, watch him. He's open. Like, keep an eye on him. Star. As we've mentioned before, is he open, kind of on his own and freewheeling sometimes? Maybe. But once you get that connection with whoever the quarterback is and you're on the same page, A.D. Mitchell does have some potentially special ability. Anything else on this game? Huge game, obviously, for the Bills coming up. They're 8-2 right now. Their only two losses to Baltimore pretty handily, and then the Texans. Two of the better teams in the AFC, so challenged again with Kansas City. They have a home game. I don't think they've played Kansas City at home in the regular season in a while. Obviously, they played them in the playoffs last year, but that's 4:25.
Yeah, and the Chiefs have been, winning ththese games, all of them, albeit, by fine margins. Like, they are 9-0, but it's not like they're this all-conquering, 9-0 that's just laying waste to everything in front of them. They're squeaking through every one of these games, and so I think that is a very live contest.
JJ in the chat is challenging us a couple times here. He's asking for a celebrity boxing match between you and I, or charity boxing, not celebrity.
Okay, yeah.
D-list celebrities here. I don't think that would work.
D-list.
But he's also asked if we've ever tapped out of the podcast for a section.
For a section?
For a segment, basically. Have we?
No, we've never tapped out of a segment.
I've had some choking experiences. I think did you run to the bathroom once? Did you take a bathroom break one time?
I ran to get a tissue.
There's a couple times I've had to go like, hey, let's monologue here. I got to cover up for Sam.
That's tapping out for okay.
It's not tapping out though. It's not. I wouldn't say you've tapped out.
Right.
Not for fatigue or anything. You're not like, oh, let me go take a nap.
Right.
We've stuck it out. We've never tapped out.
No, we play hurt.
We do. We've been in here sick. We've spread sickness to each other just to make sure that we get this thing done.
Yeah.
And we will continue to do such things.
Thanks for watching all the way to the end of our video.
For more great content, click here to subscribe and here to watch another video. We'll see you again soon.